Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend. He is a former two-time champion of MMA. He is the major domo of Kaiju MMA in, I believe is it Tarzana?
Tarzana.
Tarzana.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes,
You got it right.
Tarzana. And an accomplished Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's the one and only Gabe Ruediger. Gabe, what's going on?
What's up? What's going on, man? I like the intro. It was actually nice. It's the first time I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, that is all new because obviously, like many people, we had to shift. And, as you know, I was doing, like interviews and stuff at shows. And what do you do when there's no shows? You either do nothing or you do something. So I decided to kind of throw my hat into the ever expanding podcast sphere. And here we go. So, I mean, by doing that and having a visual presentation, I was like, maybe that might look cool.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. Good job.
Thank you, good sir.
Yeah.
But my goodness, I mean, there's a lot to unpack and everything because I mean, your story and career is, pardon the pun, but storied. But I want to kind of dial it back a bit and how did you get involved in combat sports?
Well, so like I think like a lot of people. So I was born in '77. So martial arts movies were the first thing that got me super excited. And I think I did like a hip keto class when I was like 7 or 8, maybe like a week or two. I just didn't have the. I wanted to learn weapons. I remember I wanted to learn weapons, but they said, "Oh, you don't teach weapons." So I didn't want to do it. And then I started doing kung fu in high school. And a friend of mine, Sean Duarte, he hit me up and he's like, "Come to my house. There's this thing that my dad and I have been watching. It's the most crazy martial art thing you'll ever see in your life." And I went over and watched UFC 4 at his house. It was just like floored. I remember going to my kung fu instructor and being like, I watched this jiu-jitsu thing and he loses his mind. Kung Fu Sansu has got anti-grappling. All that stuff doesn't work. And I remember he made everybody circle up and he taught this counter grappling move. And I remember I was like 16 going like, oh, I don't think that would work. But what do I know at this point? I don't know one way or the other. But I moved to San Francisco and started training at the Ralph Gracie Academy. And I fell in love with jiu-jitsu at first. I was a big fan of MMA. I was a fan more than anything, and I wanted to do it one time to see if I could actually do it. I'd done multiple jiu-jitsu tournaments. I think at that point I had done, 4 or 5 kickboxing matches, and then I did a Sanshao tournament, where Sanshao was kickboxing with throws. And then I went to Japan for a month and a half, trained with some of the best guys in the world at the time. I was able to hold my own with some of the guys enough to make me go, let's just try it and see what happens. I signed up for my first MMA fight with the idea of just doing one to see if I could actually do it. And then I realized that I could make hundreds and hundreds of dollars, like I think 200 for my first fight. And I realized that this is the baller life. And I did the fight and I got knocked out and I was disappointed and I wanted to do it again just to see if I could do it. My next fight, I think I won in less than a minute. And I'm like, I like this. There's just something pure about it. There's something raw about it. There's something terrifying about it, but there's also that ability to push past that fear factor. And then I fought for about 11, 12 years and got the opportunity to train with some amazing people, got to travel the world and, fight in some amazing organizations and fight some really, really tough dudes. And at 43, I'm a content old man.
I mean, but it's cool if you're gonna age. You might as well have some stories to tell. You know, which Rocky Nelson says, this is hella cool. I can't agree with you more.
I have a lot of stories to tell.
Yes, yes. And my favorite financial channel on YouTube, Bad Anthony. Shout out to Bad Anthony. He says, hell yeah, the Gracie Hunter.
I love that guy. You know,
Yes.
I train with Anthony a bunch. I think the way he says it, he thought he was gonna to manhandle me, and I don't know how that. What happens in training stays in training, but I really like Anthony, and I've always thought he was a solid dude.
Yeah, Anthony is a man of many talents, right? He's a medical professional, he's a professional fighter, and then a financial guru. So, I mean, that guy is a sleeper hit of the summer.
He's got the best teeth in the business.
Yes, it is. Like a pearl-handed revolver, that is.
It's a like gorgeous grill of beautifulness. Yeah.
Oh. Absolutely. Now, I love that you touch on, having trained in traditional martial arts and them kind of like that was like the scarlet letter, right? You went to your sensei and said, "I'm doing this other thing." It's funny how, a couple decades can change, kind of one's pursuit, because now it's frowned upon. Like, you don't do everything. You don't grapple, you don't strike, you don't whatever, you don't center your chi, you don't do yoga. But like back in the day, that was like, again, that was like the hugest disrespect, that not only were you going to go to another school of same discipline, but another discipline altogether. Like, that was.
At that point, I had not done jiu-jitsu. I brought it up like in passing because I watched the UFC, and my kung fu instructor was not a happy man. But I mean, the time frame. I mean, I people don't understand that prior to YouTube and the ability to film stuff, like people can say shit and you just took them for, like, he told me that if you hit somebody with kung fu, you would kill them. And I mean, I watched enough movies, and that's about as much as I knew. I'm like, I'll kill somebody. I actually can kill somebody with my hands. Now, I will say that he saved my ass. I'll tell you, I was 16, and I got into it with the captain of the wrestling team at a parking lot. And I'm like, I'm not gonna fight you, man. I'm not gonna fight you, because in my mind, I'm like, if I touch him, I'll kill him. He would have taken me down so hard on the concrete and broken my neck. So in one way, kung fu saved me. Because I was like, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight. No. And actually, that's a good thing, because we shouldn't be fighting. But I was so deluded in my mindset that I would have gotten fucking smashed. But, time frame.
No, and I mean, there's truth to anything, right? There usually, I mean, aside from you stepping in and like, I'm a black belt, and I'm going to, whatever, or you're that guy that, would, with the boxing gloves, I can't remember his name, and I don't want to remember his name, but like the guy that would just sucker punch everybody until he went with like Dejon Daniels in Vegas, and then he got KO'd. There's a guy on YouTube that does that stuff.
Oh, you're talking about the was it Charlie something or other?
Yes, yeah, that's the guy.
He went into the Mayweather club and tried to fight old man Mayweather. That guy. Yeah. I mean, there's I don't know. The one thing I appreciate about jiu-jitsu more than, like, I did kung fu for, I think, about 2 years. I never got an opportunity to really test it. Even our sparring was like, okay, he's going to throw a punch like this, and you're going to block like this. And so we went through this choreography. My first day of jiu-jitsu, like, I got thrown. So I got like a basic one-on-one, and they said, okay, now go train with those guys. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, what you know versus what they know. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything. They're like, exactly. Go in there and do it. And I got murked. I got choked multiple times. And I asked the guy, how long you been training? He's like, oh, about 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? Like, fuck. And he was, at that point, I wasn't a big man. Like, I was probably 145 pounds walking around. But he was smaller than I was, way shorter than I was. And he just decimated me. And I'm like, yeah, I need to learn this stuff. Jiu-jitsu was my first. And then I did Muay Thai at Team USA and Fairtex. And then, I got to train with a lot of camps. I was with Team Quest for a while, and then SK Golden Boys, which is a wrestling club here in the Valley, which is, most elite, high-level Eastern Bloc wrestlers. I've trained at Shoot Box. I've trained at the Lab. God, I could go on and on all the different places I've had an opportunity to train. traveled all over the world in training with Grabaka in Japan, training with Yuki Nakai in Japan. I've got an opportunity to train a lot of really, really good, tough dudes and sparred with a lot of tough guys. It's been, but I mean, you get to know what works and what doesn't work. And I had to say, like, even with jiu-jitsu is a very, very effective art, but if you can't do takedowns, jiu-jitsu means nothing. And if you can't strike, especially like in the MMA world, your jiu-jitsu means nothing. So you need to have the ability to do it all. And I think jiu-jitsu really started the next evolution of martial arts. I mean, really, like you go to any martial arts school has a grappling program now. It's necessary, you know. It's you go to a taekwondo school and they have grappling, and that's expressly because of jiu-jitsu. You know, it's not judo. Judo didn't do that. But like all arts, I think that it has its weaknesses as well.
No, absolutely, and that's the cool thing about one's exploration through combat sports is you never know everything. Like you talk about like Jordan Burroughs, who's as elite a wrestler as USA has pretty much bred, right next to Dan Gable and a litany of others, Danny Hodge and what have you. And he's like, I'm not going into MMA because like I've already kind of sharpened my skill set, whatever. I can't get punched in the face, like in that whole process, to devote it to be an elite level striker at where he is, like those things don't always come together. So,
well, I think it also, like, if you have an elite athlete, they can pick things up really, really quickly. I think one of the biggest problems in MMA that I've seen is you get high level wrestlers that get a knockout, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can knock people out, and their stand up isn't good. But they're like they fall in love with their hands, and because they fall in love with their hands, all of a sudden they lose what got them there in the first place. And the one skill set that they have where they can really dominate, who's freaking a perfect example is Johnny Hendricks. Perfect example. Yeah. He fell in love with his hands. Same Josh Koscheck. There are guys that they get a knockout and they're like, oh, I hit hard. And it's like, I mean, look, you can hit hard, and with a 4-ounce glove, anyone can get knocked out. But if your number one ability is wrestling, you should never my feeling about, like, you should always have your katana. The samurai always has his katana. He might be able to use a bow and arrow. He might be able to use other weapons as well, but his katana is the number one weapon. Why not keep that sharp as possible? You know, I mean, a guy like Jordan Burroughs, honestly, like, you could give him realistically 6 months of boxing, and with just his ability to take it to the ground would I mean, not at the elite level, but I think but then it also comes down to do you want to do it? You know, I mean, like, there are a lot of people that like don't understand that they like doing their sport, and then when they realize that, wait, this sport has other avenues that I don't like you get a pro boxer. I mean, I remember I trained with a pro boxer, and we just did kickboxing. As soon as I kicked him in the leg, he was like, what the fuck was that? And you're like, well, we're doing kickboxing. You said you want to do kickboxing. He's like, I don't like that. And you're like, well, okay, then just box. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just understand the other elements, and then don't even get started with MMA. Like, you know, because there are so many different elements, and I think that throw a lot of people off. You know what I mean? Like, Jordan Burroughs is an elite wrestler. You know, I also think that people that are elite maybe don't want to go back and be humbled. You know, I'm not saying that he's that type of guy at all. I don't know Jordan Burroughs at all, but I'm saying there's something humbling about you shoot in and the guy knees you in the face and then cracks you in the face. Well, wait a minute, that's not what but I have no doubts that, like, you put someone like Jordan Burroughs, give him a year or two, he'd be an animal.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's this, I know it's a popular euphemism to say, but I mean, there's levels to this shit. There is.
That's a fact. Well, but I have to say, if there is one sport that translates the best to MMA, it would be wrestling.
I agree.
Because you need to have a certain level of toughness. You need to be able to grind like a motherfucker. You need to have work ethic. And the ability to keep it on the feet or standing is the medium that is necessary. Like, for me, if I can't take you down, I'm going to, like, I now, you know, I in my MMA career, I don't think my stand-up was, I didn't use as much as I had. But, I mean, you talk to many training partners of mine, my stand-up is not bad. But, you know, it was an element that when it came to MMA that I had a little bit of a mental block for. But if look, if you can't get it to where you want it to be, then you're gonna have a rough night. If you put me against an elite striker and I can't take him down, I'm gonna have a rough go. And on the other end, if you're an elite striker and you get taken to the ground, you're gonna have a rough night.
That's facts. That's facts. Which I mean, you mentioned Johnny Hendricks, but there's a litany of others. There's the Aaron Picos, there's the Ben Askrens. Ben Askren not so much because he relied heavily on his wrestling, but Justin Gaethje, that's another good example of like really good wrestlers, and they're like you said, they fall in love with their hands, and everybody, whether especially in a striking discipline or sport like even Taekwondo, but definitely MMA and boxing, where there's monetary means, in wins and losses that are pretty much like in play. Like everybody loves a knockout.
I mean, look, I think that's just. I remember going to really good fights back in the day, and there'd be amazing grappling exchanges, and people would be quiet. There'd be two big fat pieces of shit swinging for the fences, and the crowd is erupting like Godzilla and King Kong are fighting. And I'm watching it going like, who doesn't like a slobber knocker? It's fun. But these guys have a minute of gas, and they're just swinging for the fences, but the crowd is losing their mind. So I mean, there's something ingrained in us that that idea of the knockout is look, boxing. Why was Tyson as famous as he was? I mean, look, he was a ferocious animal, but it was the knockouts. It was people couldn't stand in front of him for over a minute. That was expressly what made Mike Tyson the terrifying man that he was, is that he was knocking people out. And that's what, look, he was, how many heavyweights from that generation were known? Not many. I mean, Mike Tyson, still to this day, I can talk about Mike Tyson, people still know who he is. And it's because of his knockout ability. People love it. I mean, look, we're silly monkeys that like to watch dumb shit, and knockouts are fun no matter what.
Oh, you've seen my Instagram page, is what you're saying.
I never go on Instagram, so yeah. I mean,
no, I mean that's it. I think I've become more like, especially during the time of like such static and whatever. I literally have become likened to the native in Joe Dirt, the snakes and sparklers guy. Like, you don't have any of the cool shit and the whatever. No, I like podcasts and dumb shit memes. That's
hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Bad Anthony says, I love you guys. Love you too, brother. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, that dude is killing it on YouTube and Instagram with all of his financial advice. So go ahead and check Bad Anthony out on both YouTube and Instagram, because you can thank me later. That's for sure.
Let's check that out. I haven't seen any of that at all. I've seen a couple of his DJ stuff. That's about. But the thing, I don't go to Instagram that much. I'm an old man, so like I've been on Friendster a lot, been on the MySpace quite a bit, but outside that, I don't really.
Hashtag MySpace, man. I mean, if people talk shit about it, it's almost like Nickelback. I'm gonna say this, right? You guys are fucking grooving and buying the fucking Nickelback t-shirts and the fucking, How You Remind Me and everything like that. And now everybody's got culture taste, and you're fucking turning your back on Chad Kroeger. Fuck you, sir. Or ma'am, or whatever you identify with, because they were good.
1 second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm just doing a podcast. Oh, no, can I help you with anything?
No, we're good.
Oh, awesome, man.
Sorry.
All right, yeah, no.
Yeah, this is a businessman, right? Because I mean, not only is he a literal legend of the sport, and he's also a businessman. He's taking all of the things that he's compiled, over his many travels, many rounds. I mean, good Lord. I mean, just to put an estimation, how many rounds do you think you've sparred?
I don't want to even think about. I mean, I have my mental facilities for some reason. Again, my first fight was in 2000. I had this judo kid came in on Friday, and 18, super. He started training at 13, really really tough judo kid. And he's like, "How long have you been training for?" And I go, well, I had my first fight in 2002. He's like, yeah, that was the year I was born. And I'm like, you little fucking man, you little kid. But so like the time frame when I started is that's what you did, is that like you just sparred. There was so like when I said I wanted to do MMA, I was doing kickboxing at Team USA in Fairtex, and then I would go do jiu-jitsu at House. Outside that was what I did. There was nothing else. Like I would do strength and conditioning, was going to 24-hour fitness and doing bis and tries one day and chest and legs the other. Like just the basic. Nobody knew what the fuck we were doing. But like what would be considered more of like a weight training regimen versus. I didn't know. I would run, but I didn't even with running didn't even know what I was doing. But so I told Half and Kurt that I wanted to fight, and so they go, "Oh, you want to fight? You want to fight?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he go, "Okay, come tomorrow." And there was 3 other guys that had an interest in MMA, and we get there, and there's this guy named George Oliveira. His nickname was Van Dam. He's actually fought a bunch. He fought Mike Marnell. He fought WFA. George is like 6'4", 230. Like he's a monster of a man. And at this point, he had fought like I think 6 or 7 underground fights in Brazil. And again, understand I'm 155 pounds wet and 5'10". He's a monster of a man. I come in and all 4 of us are standing there and they're like, okay, put your gloves on, put your mouthpiece on. We're like, oh, okay, we're all excited. Like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna hit pads. We're gonna do this. Like, okay, you're all going against George. Like at the same time. I mean, that makes sense. They're like, no, one at a time. Oh, he's gonna go light with us. Nope. Whack. First guy goes down, and George goes on top of him and just punches him in the face. He's like, oh, he taps. My turn, same thing. Whack. I get to my guard, and I'm like, oh, he'll play nice here. Nope. He's just fucking punching me in the face. Boom, 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 boom. The next day, my eye is shut, my lip is split, my nose is. So this nose is a work in progress. This is not my naturally born nose. I come back the next day with my gloves. The other 3 guys are like, fuck this shit. And I'm the only one dumb enough to come for day 2. And that was MMA sparring. You want to do MMA? This is what you do. Like it was like there was nothing technical about it at all. There wasn't like okay, this is how we're gonna do our rounds or anything. It was no, this monster is going to fucking kill you, and you have to survive. And you're like, okay, I guess that's what we do. And that was, I think, probably the first 8 years of my career was that type of shit. Team Quest was okay. We're gonna do 10 5-minute rounds. Dan Henderson, Terry Sokoju, Krzysztof Wazinski, I can't, like those 3 beasts right there alone are like, go fuck. And then then we'd have like a Dave Gardner, or even for a while there we had Sam Stout and a couple of the other Canadians that came through, and you're like, oh, I like these rounds because they're smaller. Or even like Art Santori and just all these like 185 205ers, and yeah, that was okay. That's what we're doing.
Fuck, man. Oh God, there's some. Oh, and you know what? Here's the crazy thing about it. There are still gyms that are kind of still doing that, right? Like there have been times where I've showed up and like you just see everybody bobbleheading, and I'm like, oh, this is not gonna be good when you're 40. Is not.
I have pros that I work with, and I think sparring is important, but when I say sparring, I feel that it should be super technical, and if you want to grapple hard, but don't strike hard. And every time with these knuckleheads, I'm always jumping in and slow it down, and it's all right, you guys break, stop. Freaking animals. Like look, I tell them all the time, I go, listen, if you're not tough, then we need to know if like the sparring will help us with that. But if you're tough and we know you're tough, there's no reason to do that. There's like you genuinely, it's taking years off of your career.
Yeah, and I mean, just competency, years out of your life, right? Like you might be cool in the gym, right? And I almost look at it, and Gabe, you know that I'm a wrestling fan, right? And with pro wrestlers, there's a thing called the bump card, right? There's only so many times your body can get slammed before it says, fuck you, we're not doing this shit anymore, right? Well, guess what? The same thing should apply for combat sports and anything involving the noggin, right? So, again, there's only, I mean, if you speak clearly now, and I mean, that is kind of on the fence because I've seen some social media posts of people, and I'm like, that's not English,
I have
and you were born here.
two friends of mine that are MMA fighters that I've known throughout my career that when they talk now, I feel horrible for them. And I have one friend in particular, whenever I talk to him, like, hey, what's going on? Hey, like you see the wheel is spinning, but it's spinning so slow. He's trying to get everything out and he's just trying to say hi, but because of the amount of damage he's had, and the guy, look, warrior by all means a warrior. But it's sad to me that now, as I mean, he's not an old man. He's much younger than I am. It's unfortunate and it's sad. But I mean, are you going to tell a war horse not to go to war? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like once it's ingrained in you, it's ingrained in you. And we can talk. Well, you know, here's a perfect example is I thought that the Athletic Commission in California was criminal by allowing Chuck Liddell to fight. It was
that third fight, right?
It was
that Tito Chuck 3, yeah.
Fight with him and Tito. It was criminal. I watched multiple people sent me videos of Instagram of him hitting pads, and I'm like, oh, he's just doing that to lure Tito into a sense of confidence. And then I talked to a few people that went in the room with him, and they're like, no, man, that's him. And I'm like, why the fuck are they allowing him to fight? Like, that's criminal. It's genuinely criminal that they allowed that shit to happen. Horrible, horrible.
Yeah, I was at the weigh-ins. That it wasn't nice, and you know, of course, fit. Like he was kind of fit, you know, in terms of like everyday Joe Blow type, definitions. But I mean, in terms of like you could actually see one of his arms are kind of stiffened up, and Chuck always walked with a limp anyway. But I mean, it was a little bit more pronounced, and you know, he had the abs and everything. Again, this is what fat guys are killing for is like abs in their 50s and what have you, rather than like arthritis. But I mean, it wasn't good, right? Where Tito, on the other hand, I mean, I was there. He talked to me. This is a guy who's notoriously had a bad relationship with the press. And yeah.
I thought you were going to say he's notoriously retarded. But yeah.
I'm sure there have been accusations that way too. I mean, happening literally today in Huntington Beach, but that's another story for another day. So, I mean, and for the record, he's treated me the couple times that I've been around him like a prince. So there's that. But I mean, that's also why I kind of do this is, I encourage everybody to start a podcast or have a social media presence or whatever the heck, because when Dana White is saying that this is not a career, this is an opportunity, but yet we'll also tell like Curtis Blades when Brock Lesnar pushed DC after the Stipe knockout, like, oh, you're mad because you got skipped over the line? Well, you don't sell tickets, right? And Curtis Blades is like, I'm a traditional martial artist. Dana White is like, you know what you can do with your traditional martial arts? Teach judo lessons, at a strip mall in your hometown. But that's not a star. So like that's it. Like doing things like this, and having being able to cash in on your notoriety as best as you can, because you can't look to the promoters to do that for you.
I agree with that. I also feel that if there's one regret in my career is that I quit going to college so I could just do jiu-jitsu. And it wasn't that I was like, this is going to be my career. It's just I was a 20-year-old kid and was enjoying what I was doing. I really wish I would have finished school, and I wish that I had a secondary. No. I'm very, very gracious that I have the ability to have this one, and I love what I do every day. And I can't think of doing anything else because I really, truly love what I do. And I have an amazing group of people that I work with on the daily. And I'm fortunate in that respect. I know a lot of fighters that don't have the ability to do that, or they don't have the want. I know a lot of people are just like, I don't know, I'm just fighting. And that was actually me up until I had my daughter. And then I was like, oh shit, like, okay, I'm 34. I've had my neck fused. I've had my back fused. How much more of this can I really do? I had just been out of the UFC and then had my back. I had my back surgery, and I'm very, very fortunate that I was able to teach private lessons and then go from being an instructor to owning my own school. And I'm very, very fortunate for that. But I wish I would have had a secondary option.
No, that's absolutely true. And Jesse Velasquez, who is young in the game himself, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and IFS champion, says striking is way more appealing for the casual fan, and easier to understand. But grappling is a hard sell unless you're training yourself, And he's biased because he started out in BJJ and like subs. And even if you get choked out and all of that jazz, whatever, like, you will probably, unless you don't tap and you lose consciousness over and over, like, it's way less taxing on your body and your brain than other things like striking.
It's weird because, like for instance, one of the biggest draws in the UFC of all time is GSP, and GSP is notorious for the takedown and being kind of, I feel like it's efficient, but a lot of people call him boring, but he's also been one of the biggest draws. You know what I mean? So there's something to be said about that. But that, like, my feeling of, or even a Habib.
Yeah.
You know what he's going to do. You know it. Stop it. Stop it. If you can stop it, then if not, shut the fuck up. Now, admittedly, everybody wants, like Jesse said, the knockouts. It's something we all recognize a knockout, right? Like, and it's, look, I like to watch them. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I've seen enough clips of people being clipped in street fights. That ooh and ah factor is always there. Now, obviously, I'm biased as a grappler, but I also feel that you have these elite grapplers like a GSP and a Habib that what they're going to do. Stop it. Stop it. That's all you got to do. That's it. Oh, you can't? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's it, and sometimes it's a thrill of the unknown future, just like what we're seeing in GameStop and AMC. So shout out to Stephen Teal.
I love that shit. I love that shit. And the fact that the curtain has been pulled back off of Wall Street and people are actually paying attention to it that weren't paying attention before. I kind of feel that 08 was just kind of blown over and everyone was just kind of like, oh, everything's okay. No. They fucking pilfered America and did it to the small person. And now with this, it's just more proof that they're going to do it and they're going to attempt to do it again. And I have to say that I commend each and every person. As a matter of fact, I just bought the stock. I have no interest in selling it. I put a couple $100 in AMC and GameStop just because. And I'm not taking the money out. I don't care. I'm willing to lose a couple $100, but it's necessary for me to be in solidarity with everyone else to say fuck you to the hedge funds that have been fucking taking billions and billions as people lose their homes and businesses. Fuck, like honestly, like the fact that he gave $5 trillion to Wall Street when the market started to fall down, while multiple friends of mine have lost their businesses that feed their family, and the working men and women of America are getting fucked over while Wall Street's getting $5 trillion. Fuck Wall Street.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. And you might be talking to a guy that has a couple hundred Dogecoins, is what I'm saying.
Hey,
yeah.
I don't play. I have many friends that are day traders and whatnot. I've got a little bit of stock in there. But as soon as I'd heard about any of this, I put the money in, expressed it for solidarity. And I don't care. I'm not going to touch it. I just feel that it's necessary that Americans as a whole recognize that the system is rigged. And it is not rigged for the people that deserve it, the ones that work their ass off. I work every single day really, really hard. I pay my taxes. I am committed to my family and my loved ones, and I love America. But there's absolutely an issue that I have when when Wall Street is getting taken care of, and I see people hurting so bad.
No, 1,000%. And to which Rocky Nelson said, "Yep, fuck Wall Street. That's it." And it's what's weird, right? This is the same shit when Rage Against the Machine like did their music video, like literally like 20 some odd years ago, that they were saying this is the fucking Carlin bit after 9/11. This is a fucking game and the game is rigged. And you ain't in it. This is a part of the club and you ain't in it. And it's crazy that we haven't learned from it.
I still feel that there are many people that don't really have a concept of what this is about, and it doesn't get any more basic and open than what is happening right now. When you get an idea, and I've seen multiple breakdowns, which like even Tito Ortiz could understand. Really, like basic, and I hope that it again, like I said, the curtain is pulled back, and I hope more people are paying attention. And for me, I'm not trying to do a quick sell. I'm sure I could have, especially my AMC stock, because I bought it on the low. But again, I'm keeping it there for solidarity.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. Like I said, I'm doing the same. Which is, right now, right? It's crazy, right? Because we live in a world where, pre-March of 2020, right? MMA and what have you, and all of its subsidiaries, whether it be the UFC or what have you, all of the offspring. There are times in LA where, yeah, LA is a combat sports hotbed, right? And people don't know what the UFC is. Total disclosure, I was doing Uber, right? Right before all this shit happened. I would pick people up from WMEIMG in Beverly Hills, and they had no fucking idea. They worked for the parent company, and they had fucking no idea what it is, right? But the first sport to come back...
with UFC or with MMA?
No, UFC, WME.
Because UFC for me has kind of become like the Coca-Cola of cola. You know what I mean? Like,
it is, especially with the...
Proceed. I finish what you're saying. I apologize.
No. So it absolutely is. It's the brand name, right? And it's a weird one because, like, in other sports, right? There was football before there was the NFL. There was, you go down the rabbit hole of whatever sport that is popular today that you can buy a T-shirt or a jersey online or at your local, wherever the Big Five or wherever the fuck, right? But like MMA and the elite, like, organization of the sport and the history of what we think it is almost synonymous with that one brand. And of course, here in North America, of course, there was Vale Tudo in Brazil and Shoot Box and everything. But like, Americans do something where it only affects us. So in our kind of mind's eye, MMA is UFC, and you're not necessarily wrong for thinking about that historically.
Yes and no. I mean, like the Pancrase organization in Japan had been doing it for years prior. I think the idea of fighting is appealing no matter what. I mean, look at history. History is written from battles. You know what I mean? And they're like, you have your Musashis and even your Wyatt Earps and now obviously gunfighting is different, but either way, you have your warrior class that people appreciate and really enjoy. I think that it was necessary that that mixed martial arts was going to come to fruition some way or the other. It just happened to be that the UFC, they were the first in America. You know what I mean? And now obviously it's been like what now they're on their third evolution of ownership. I think because it was on TV first. And because it was, it's been pushed. That's why the branding of it. I give them all the credit in the world. I mean, I was bringing up why it was MMA or UFC, because if I say UFC, most people know what I'm talking about. And I remember this woman came in with her son, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my boyfriend does UFC," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, He fights in the UFC." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, what's his name?" She tells me, and I'm like, I don't know everybody, but I don't know who that is. She's like, "I know, I was at one of his fights." And I looked him up, and he had fought 3 times as an amateur. And so she, in her mind, she didn't know any better. It was UFC. It's all UFC. I mean, MMA is UFC. And I mean, look, I good job, slow clap for them on the branding.
Yeah, which I gotta ask you. I mean, this is a hard-hitting question, but Gabe Ruediger, do you train UFC, bro?
Quite a bit, quite a bit. I do a UFC gym to get my my black belt. You know, it's all politics. Politics.
I mean, it literally is. It literally is. And Jesse says he actually does. He trains UFC, bro. So shout
So
out to Jesse.
good job.
Now, obviously, I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? If you're any type of artist or what have you, to not only make a living, with your craft, but also to travel the world, right? So that is something that you were able to do. Uh, I'm a I'm a Japan nut, right? Whether it be pro wrestling, whether it be pancrase, whether it be what have you, I'm just fascinated with the culture. I've never been, but what was that experience like the first time that you went over to Japan?
So the first time I was in Japan was for about a month and a half. My buddy Katsuya, he's kind of a celebrity now, which is very Japanese. He looks like this at the time. He looks like this famous baseball player, but he goes on all these variety shows and pretends to be the baseball player. But he's not. Everyone knows he's not the baseball player, but just the Japanese love him, and he's become kind of a celebrity. He does like all these cabarets and stuff. But anyways, Katsuya came and trained with us at Halps, and he stayed with me multiple times. And he goes, "You want to come stay with me in Japan?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I stayed in his studio apartment with him. Every day I would go and I would train either at Yuki Nakai's gym, or I would go to there's this massive like Tokyo gym training center that like all the different martial arts train at. But at the time there was a team called Grabaka, which was all the top level guys. It was run by what's his name? Can't think. At the time he won silver in Abu Dhabi, and for a Japanese that was really impressive.
Huge.
But all the top guys were there, like Maki Sakurai, Gono. Eminari. There were I go on and on. Like all the names at the time were just the most massive, and I would go and train with those guys. And getting the opportunity to train with I was starstruck by Sakurai because at that point this is something that a lot of like Americans don't understand. Him and Shuto at the time was like the organization, and he was the 70-pound Shuto champion. He had just beat the fuck out of Frank Trigg, and when he came in the room, I was kind of like in shock. But I mean, it was awesome. All I did was train all day and immerse myself in Japanese culture. And I would go and train at different gyms. I went to Sakurai's gym for a couple of days. I trained hip keto or Aikido. Aikido was like a traditional Japanese Aikido gym. It was a month and a half, and I'm a young 25-year-old man, and met a lot of people and a lot of culturally. Japan is just such a great country. I remember one day taking the train to go to there's a samurai sword museum. It's in a like a residential area. There's nothing else around. So I got dropped off, and my Japanese is garbage, but I've got my little book, and I'm trying to get someone to help me to find the place. And this guy goes, "Oh, okay, I think it's over here." He was waiting for a train. I just got off the train, and he takes me all around, and I'm like, "Do you have to get a train?" He goes, "Yes, I'll catch the next one." And I go, "Okay." And we find the Samurai Sword Museum, and he goes, "Do you want me to wait for you?" And I go, "Dude, I don't even know how how much I appreciate the fact that you've taken this much time to get me here. Please go about your business, go about your day." And he goes, "Okay." And that it kind of typifies Japan for me. Just like they're a very, very polite and nice people. And, I've been to Brazil before that, and it was drastically different as far as culturally and as far as cleanliness and not being afraid. I mean, Brazil's sketchy. I mean, you want to talk a third world, that is a third world motherfucker. But Japan, I mean, there's nothing bad that ever happened. I had someone try to rob me in Japan, and it was an American.
Really?
An American. I shit you not. I shit you not. I was in fucking the club district. I'm trying to think. There's a specific. I'm drawing a blank right now. There's an area where all the clubs are. They're only in
Rapungi?
Rapungi. Thank you.
Yes. I
Yes.
got you.
In Rapungi, and I'm super inebriated. And to give you, this is 2001. I had a brand new digital camera. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, and this guy walks up to me and he's like, "Hey man, you got any money?" I'm like, "I don't have any money, man." He's like, "No, man, like give me your money." And I look at him, I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Give me your money." And I'm like, I'm drunk, but I'm like, "I've got $200 and I've got a digital camera. Come over here and take it." He's like, "Ah, fuck this," and just walks away. But so I know I'm in Japan, so I know he doesn't have a gun. Like I know that fucking nothing's gonna happen. Like, and I at this point I'd had enough fights to know that I could handle myself. He was a big dude, but it was an American. Weird fucking. But
I mean, theoretically speaking, he could have got much worse. When you went to describe the guy, and I was like, wait, did he have a sweater on or like a suit? Because that could have went sideways really fucking quick. Because I mean, for those that are not in the know, like the Yakuza, they essentially are tatted from like.
He was very American.
Okay.
He was a black man, so like you definitely wasn't Yakuza. Actually, I ended up going to a Yakuza bar when I was there. That was a trip. That was like a straight Yakuza bar, and yeah, like, and I'm gonna tell you, I was on my best behavior. This guy Moon that I met, he was Korean, and his brother owned all these restaurants, these big high-end restaurants. And one night they asked us me to go drinking with them. And I said, of course. And we went to Roppongi again, but we went off strip into like a back alleyway, and like it was like, again, like it's movie shit, but it's like genuine. We went underneath, like it was underground, and there was two big, massive sumo-looking guys in suits, and they knew Moon's brother. We went in, and we go in. It's all Japanese guys with Eastern European women and beautiful women. And I'm a young 25-year-old, but my eyes are like this.
Mm-hmm.
And Moon introduces me to his brother's business associate, the guy that had got him. And I shake his hand, and he's missing a finger. And I'm like, I go to Moon. I'm like, dude, are we in a fucking Yakuza bar? He's like, of course. That's just how business is done here. Like, of course. And I'm like, what do I do? He's like, you're fine. Like, just relax. If they offer you drinks, get drinks, and we're fine. So I just sat, and they offered me drinks. And yes, thank you very much. Didn't try to look at the women. Did my very best and it was, I mean, dude, when you shake a guy's hand and you fucking see that finger cut off, you're like, holy fuck. But it was, I'm 25, and like, again, like, just chalk it off as experience.
Fuck! Oh my god! I'm like, my blood is kind of boiling just hearing it. It's so fucking. Oh.
In Japan, Yakuza are very, very common. They're everywhere, and if you're doing any type of business, more than likely Yakuza is going to be involved in, and it's just a normal thing. It is. Now obviously, like there's taboos. Like, for instance, you can't go into a sports bar or like any type of sauna or anything if you have tattoos. But outside that, like I remember going to I went to some fight there, a deep fight.
Yeah.
Scalpers outside selling tickets. My friend's like, oh, those guys are all Yakuza. I'm like, well, they're just selling tickets. He's like, no, yeah, but they work. They like they don't. None of them have tattoos, but like they're low level, just workers that work for the Yakuza selling tickets. Yep.
Fuck, man, that's crazy. That's
awesome.
But it is.
A month and a half in Japan for the first time. Then I've been back, I think 3 or 4 times after that. Every time was great. I love Japan. I love the culture. Love the food. Yeah, I mean, I have one of my students. He just went to Japan for the first time because he's like, I need to travel. I'm like, go to Japan first. And he's actually half Japanese. And I said, he's like, what do you think about going to Japan? I'm like, for a first time traveler, it is a perfect place. And now he's like, I can't wait to go back. And so yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I want to get into. I mean, we can't talk about Japan and not talk about your love for Godzilla. I mean, you named your gym Kaiju MMA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk to me about your love for Godzilla. How did this start? I think this is one of the most fascinating things about you, but it's also, like, for those who know you, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I loved Godzilla since I was a little kid. Like, I really, really just, I watched all the movies and it's enjoyable. A big monster stepping on and destroying cities. Who wouldn't love that? You know, and the nickname, actually, the nickname doesn't come from the movies or my love. It comes from a dick joke, to be honest.
Do tell, good sir.
So my buddy John, him and I. When I first moved to Southern California, I was doing odd jobs to kind of make ends meet because I mean MMA, you'd get a big payday would be $500. I was doing painting and this and that. My buddy John and I was like helping him out with some staining. He had a staining business, and I would go stain concrete with him. And we're just two guys, and we're saying dumb shit all the time, and so it got to the point where everything had to do with having a big penis, right? So I'm going to get into the past but of course it's going to have a big penis. Oh, this is delicious, but of course it's going to have a big penis. Really, really stupid and juvenile, but what are you going to do? But so I went over to his wife's house to his house, and his wife made us dinner. And his wife, I said something about it tasted delicious, but of course it is because I've got a big penis. And she's like, "You guys are pathetic with this stuff. Just stop with it already." And I went, "I understand, Raquel. My penis is much like Godzilla in Japan. At first, because he's so large and destructive, you're afraid of him. But after a while, he becomes an icon, and you appreciate it." And John is just floored laughing, and his wife is like, "I can't believe you just did that!" Like it was spot on, like right after. And John and I were training partners, and we were at the gym, and he's like, "What's up, Godzilla?" And that's where it came from. Yeah.
I love it.
Now, I am still a big fan of Godzilla. I still watch all the movies, and I appreciate it. But yeah, and I'll be honest, like my first, I think 5 years, I made some other. I felt like it was like I needed to make up a different name for or a different story why I got the nickname. But that is how the nickname came. So yeah,
I
a really stupid dick joke. Yeah.
Fuck yeah! But you made that stupid dick joke. I mean, more valuable than I don't know most fucking jokes that I mean even like Eddie Murphy or whatever fucking. So I'd say kudos to you, good sir.
Yeah, it's yeah. Now my school is Kaiju, not Godzilla. So yeah, but I mean yeah. So,
yeah. I fucking love it. Which, I mean, there's a couple of things going on. So, Jesse Velasquez.
Without question, that's just stupid. Here's the thing: King Kong climbed the Empire State Building. Godzilla would walk over the Empire State Building. And let's Godzilla or King Kong's gonna throw stuff. Godzilla is a nuclear reactor. He shoots radioactive fire. Like, get out of here. That's stupid. It's not like they're not even on the same level. Let's get out of here. King Kong is useless. But yeah, I mean, they're going to try to make it as Hollywood as possible, and they're going to, like, size variants and whatnot. But, like, come on. No, I will say that Kong's got the reach. He's got the reach. I will say that Kong's got reach. But Godzilla with everything else, no. Get out of here. No.
So are you going to watch it? The Rocky Nelson ones?
Of course. I watched all the I didn't like the last one, the King Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I thought it was very good. But I will watch every Godzilla movie possible. I love it. I still, even with the nickname coming from a silly dick joke, I still am a massive fan of Godzilla.
Do you like Led Zeppelin as well?
Led Zeppelin. I love those songs. Yeah, I'm not a big fan though.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, have you heard of when that first, I think it was like the late 90s, early 2000s incarnation of Godzilla, Jimmy Page teamed up with Puff Daddy to.
Yeah, that I actually have that song on my iPod. Yeah.
Okay, so then that's a win for you. That's a thumbs up. That song.
I mean, it's actually not bad. It's not a bad song. I'm not the biggest Led Zeppelin fan. I do like their music, but I'm not. I wasn't like, oh, this is what I need. But yeah, I mean, that was a good song.
Yes, and Don McGuire just caught the end of it, so you definitely have to go back and watch that. Shout out to Don McGuire of the Fighter's Voice, and Rocky Nelson says, and I like this: King Kong versus Godzilla, UFC 260 with Gabe as the ref. I like that.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
I would take that. Although that's a rough room to be the ref in. I've seen some of the heavyweight matches, and like, ooh, I mean, you're gonna do a King Kong versus Godzilla. I mean,
Damn, what are you gonna do? Like,
okay, you guys, you know what? Do your thing. I don't know. There's no fouls here. Go to work.
so I mean, obviously Godzilla wins, 100 times out of 100 in your book, right? So obviously nuclear reactor, fucking lizard and shit like that. So what is your take on like non-Godzilla shit like Rampage, whether it be the video game or the movie with The Rock?
Oh, you know what? I thankfully never watched the movie The Rock, but I used to love the video game when I was a kid. The fact that they made a movie out of it was kind of weird. But I loved. I mean, look. I'm the arcade generation, so like going to the arcade and playing Rampage was so much fucking fun. Now, I mean, I'm sure like kids nowadays would be like, "Oh, that's garbage gameplay," but I think it was fucking great. You get to grab people and eat them for fucking power. Great, yeah.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Which I mean, Don McGuire wants to know, what analogy do you feel defines you, not just as a warrior, but as a man in your walk through life?
What word?
What analogy? If you were to give an analogy, yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. I don't at this point. It's a tough one, man. I'm not. Well, I can go like so. So, if there's one thing that I can say about my career and my life, it's always about getting back up. And regardless, like of falling down, and I have fallen down hard, and I've had my whole career ruined. I've had multiple surgeries. I always got back up and I kept fighting. And I feel that kind of is what fighting is. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, is in just. I think that in a lot of ways that's an analogy for life, right? Because you're going to deal with hardships, and I've dealt with hardships that were not fighting oriented, and it just comes to getting back up and going. And I've been had many times where I felt like it doesn't get any worse than this, and it unfortunately gets worse. But it's always about going forward, and I think if there's an analogy, fighting is the analogy for life.
I agree. Which with everything that had gone on the previous year, and I was like, oh fuck, you guys are not in the MMA community, because like this kind of like we have everybody from all walks of life, fucking just on the mats and fucking hashing it out. And I was even more surprised about the people that are in our community that chose to go that route. And I'm like, you guys know fucking better. You know better.
Well, no, I mean, so like even when I talk to people now, I'm just like, look, there's rough times, and this is not going to be the last rough time. It's not going to be the last time that we have to. But you either fight and endure, or you just fail. And if there's one thing I know that I know I have a lot of black eye in my career, especially from the Ultimate Fighter. But no one can say that I'm not a fighter. No one can say that I mean. If there was a time for me to quit, that would have been the time. You know what I mean? After this show, I had my neck fused. If there was a time that I could have called it a day, that would have been it. But I said, you know what? No, I'm going to get back to it and go to work. And that's like, the same thing with like people are like, oh, did you lose your gym? You lose your gym? I'm like, no, my gym is slowly coming back to life. And they're like, oh, I can't believe that you're keeping at it. And I'm like, well, it's the only choice I have. Things are bad. Things are rough. I've lost hundreds of students, and financially, I'm not near remotely close to what I once was. But I will be back there, and I'll be stronger because I will fight for it and I will work for it. And if there's one analogy for life. It's you got to fight for it, you know. And you're not always going to win. You're not always going to be on the up and up. But was the Rocky quote? It's not how hard you hit; it's how hard you can get hit and keep going.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, that's fucking life.
Yeah, absolutely. Which Rocky Nelson wants to know, since you brought it up, what do you feel is your best and worst moment from The Ultimate Fighter?
Oh, the best moments. I don't feel there's been any good moments, to be honest. I mean, the show is a different animal. I mean, I guess in the respect that I met a lot of people. And it also, but another part is it actually, I brought this up a lot, with not in passing with friends, that I feel that the fall from the show was actually a very good thing for me, because it definitely put any ego I had in check, and definitely made me realize that what we see on television and what we perceive as reality is certainly not that. There was good lessons from it. It was a clusterfuck, man, and I mean, it was supposed to be. Like, there's a reason why it's set up the way it is. They pick 16 people that you're a cast. They say the cast of Ultimate Fighter. You know, as real as they pretend it is. Do you fight? Are the fights real? Of course, the fights are real. Are the things that are happening real? I mean, to an extent of, they're putting it in the timeline that works for them, and highlighting things that make it more of an exciting product. They're also doing things like manipulating it. Like, for instance, there'd be times they said, "Oh, so and so said this about you." Now, I would never know that, but they have they have your mic, so they know it, and them telling you that is going to be like, "Whoa, well, fuck that guy." And now they've been able to boost something that wouldn't normally be there. Ultimate Fighter was a ride, man. It's 13 years ago for me, and obviously I have regrets. I really wish I would have fought on the show. I wish that I would have been shown the way I was. They made my character was kind of shitty, but you know what? It is. You know, what can I can't do anything about that. But I learned a lot about myself, and it's a trip to still, like, it's been 13 years, and I still hear people bring up the show, and I'm like, I never think about that shit. I mean, if someone brings it up, I'll be like, yeah, but even then, like, it is such a tiny part of my life. In a lot of ways, it was a good thing, like I said, like for the ego check, and going back to the fighting thing, I felt like my career was on the uptick at that point, and then that brought me down to zero, really. I mean, then so after the show, the California State Commission wouldn't license me because they said I was mentally unable to fight, which was just fucking crazy. And then right after that, I had my neck fused. So as far as I get kicked out of the UFC, being told that I'd never fight for the UFC again, and then having my license revoked in California, and then immediately after that having my neck fused. It went from bad to worse to, are you fucking kidding me? But I kept going and persevered, and then I fell again. My next fight's in the UFC, I lost. But you know what? That's how life works sometimes, and it's I'm fortunate that I got to make it to that level. There are many, many fighters that didn't even got an opportunity to do that. So,
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. And you've accomplished so much. And Rocky Nelson says, I like how you didn't back down when the guard was barking at you. So there you go.
The funny thing about that, I thought we were going to fight. The night before, me and Corey Hill were in the hot tub together, and he's like, man, I respect all you guys that have fought in the UFC already. Like, this is a dream for the rest of us. Like, because me, Joe Lazon, and someone else had already fought in the UFC. Oh, yeah. Matt. And he's like, you guys are the fucking guys. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, you're a cool dude. Like, I want all the best for you. And then he goes and immediately does a switch and like gets in my face. And I'm like, oh, fuck, are we going to fight? Like, my hands are up. Like, I don't want this to happen, but like whatever's changed in you is changed in you. I'm like, okay, fuck. And then 10 minutes after that was all over, he's like, that was for the cameras, dog. That's for the cameras, dog. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I get it. And like, that's another thing that people don't understand. Like, when you have cameras on you, you're going to do shit expressed because you know that that's going to get you attention. You're going to do shit because you know that like, dude, we are in a world where you're being followed everywhere and you can't go anywhere. So you're going to make yourself a little bit more, dude. Like, I went to Vegas and I trained with who's the fucking kid? Junie Browning. I trained with Junie with Sean Tompkins. This is before I fought for the TPF belt. And he was like, yeah, man, I did all that just for the show. And, man, look at it. I made more than I ever did. And I'm more famous than I've ever been. And I'm like, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you realize that, you act like an idiot and you're going to have cameras on you. So, I mean, yeah, the Corey Hill thing was like, I was going to fight Corey. And as a matter of fact, after the show, I hit up every promoter to fight Corey Hill. And Corey Hill was fighting for TPF. I hit them up. I said, give me Corey Hill. Give me Corey Hill. I hit his coach up and I said, let me fight Corey Hill. Let me fight him. And everyone's like, no, like different career paths. And I'm like, fuck that. I want to fight him. And, then Corey Lawton passed. But I didn't have bad blood towards Corey, but it was more like I want to prove the fighter that I am. It wasn't that I had ill will towards Corey. And actually, when I left the show, I didn't have any bad, but the fighter in me was like, fuck that. Let's do this shit and let me show you who I really am.
No, 100%. And I want to catch on the two title wins because WEC and Tachi Palace. I mean, those two promotions, right? And especially for the time that you won them, I mean, there wasn't lights out extreme fighting. There wasn't a lot of promotions that would be the feeder systems to the UFC. Obviously, the WEC was acquired by Zuffa before the WME deal, and it lives in kind of lore, right? And then Tachi Palace, that again, it was like, if it wasn't UFC, it was King of the Cage and Tachi Palace. That's how you got into the UFC. So talk to me about those title wins and what it meant to you.
When I won the WEC belt, the UFC did not have a lightweight title. You couldn't go to the UFC. The UFC didn't exist. You had to fight in Japan. Like, the idea was to go fight in Shuto or Pride. Those are the only options you had. Like the UFC, and like there's a time frame people won't understand this. Like Jens Pulver was the baddest dude on the planet, and my second title defense was against Jason Maxwell, and Jason knocked out Jens. And like that was a big deal in grassroots MMA. Like that was a fucking big deal. I fought in the WC, and I'm gracious that I'm one of the few title holders for that organization. I mean, if you look at you can go on Fight Pass and look at their library. They've had so many exceptional fighters, and the fact that I was able to get the belt and then defend it twice successfully. I'm very thankful for them, and WC was a great organization, and there were so many tough, good fighters that came from that time frame. I never once thought I'd be a world champion. That was never anything in my. And then when I got it, I was actually going to retire. I was like, I've done more in this sport than I've ever thought I was going to do. I'm going to just quit. And then a buddy of mine, who's a mortgage bro. I'm sorry, he's not a mortgage. He's actually he works for a hedge fund. I was doing privates with him, and my Jason Maxwell was going to be my last fight, and I was going to retire and go back to school. And he goes, Craig Lyman, still a close friend of mine to this day. Craig goes, I think Craig was in his 40s. He goes, if there's one thing I regret, it's that I didn't do things physically when I had the opportunity to do it. And he's like, you can always go back to school, you can always do things mentally, but you're not always going to have the physical ability to do what you're going to do. And I sat and thought about it. And this is, again, there was no money in MMA. There was no, like the fame was maybe someone in a bar would buy you a drink, maybe. But I loved doing it. And so I kept at it. I kept making, made a career out of it. I had another, 10, 15 fights after that. But, the WC was an amazing promotion, and I'm very, very fortunate that I got a chance to fight for them. And then the Tachi Palace is, I mean, there's so many good guys came from it. Their belt's so beautiful. I fought a guy at the time. He was 10-0. He fought a UFC veteran. He was going to be picked up by the UFC by beating me. It was done, and I was just like the stepping stool to get back in the UFC, or to get him in the UFC, and I beat him. And I beat him very decisively. Winning that belt with in the tribe at Tachi Palace. Jacob Jeff is still a close friend of mine and someone that I respect immensely. I mean, I have belts. I mean, now admittedly they're in a box, but I have them, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, of all the belts, again, for somebody that just kind of wanted to do it, right? Just kind of wanted to try it out. Two of the most prestigious promotions of all time, and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is what you said you wanted to do. It's just jiu-jitsu. That's got to be fucking cool. I think it's cool.
I don't really think about it much. I'm honestly at a point in my life where my concern is my family and my students, and then outside that, like I don't really even. I have students that come in here, and I don't talk about fighting or anything like that. It's not. I consider myself an instructor now. I consider myself a father. I consider myself a businessman. Now I did all that stuff, and I still train daily. I'm still. I mean, anyone comes in the room, I guarantee you, I will surprise anyone that comes in the room that wants to test it. I know for a fact I've trained with guys that are in the UFC right now, and I hold my own just fine. But that's not who I am anymore. I'm happy being a 43-year-old man that's able to help other people become better people. I have some fighters I work with, but not a lot. We're not a fighting school. I'm actually more impressed by my accountants and doctors that are like, hey, I love jiu-jitsu and maybe I'll do a tournament. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, man. Let's do it. You're 50. Let's go. Let's do this. That's more inspiring to me now than the guy, the young kid who's like, I want to fight. I'm like, okay. I mean, if you want to do it, I'll be alongside you. But I'm actually, I guess life moves in different directions, and I'm more focused on my daughters. I have two beautiful daughters, and I think that's more important to me than titles or what I did, when I was a young man. And a lot of what I did as a young man is just like I lived. I lived hard, and at 43, I go home to my wife, spend time with my dogs. I get to teach my students all day, and I mean, I get to teach. That's amazing. Like I have the opportunity to pass on knowledge to other people. So I mean, I'm in a good point in my life right now where, I mean, I'm thankful that I got to do all this stuff. And when we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, wow, I did do all that shit. But it's not something that I even think about on the daily. It's I get up and I do things that I feel are more important for my community and more important for my family. Who I am and what I did is not as important as what I can do now. I mean, if I don't know, I could sit and be like, oh, I did this, I did that. Now I'm Al Bundy. Like, I got six home runs or touchdowns in high school. Big fucking deal. You know what I mean? I'm more happy and more committed to the here and the now.
No, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And I wish, I mean, a lot more people, both your contemporaries and people that are coming up through the sport, kind of got to sit down and talk to you and kind of see your perspective, because I think it's awesome. One, that you're still able to talk clear, speak clearly, right? And then the fact that, again, your outlook is changed. I mean, like that, the Ultimate Fighter, that might be the notoriety, but anybody that knows you knows you're not that fucking guy. So that's, Well,
I mean, I'm thankful I had an opportunity to do it, like I said, and I mean, I'm 13 years removed from it, and I went back to fighting right after it. It's not like that was like the end of my career or even the start of it. It was actually that it was like my career was going up, and then it was a fall down and then get back up. Like I was talking about the analogy for life, but it's come and gone, and I mean, they're amazing fighters that are fighting now, and I'm still a fan of the sport, not as much as I once was. I'll be honest. I probably spend more time watching. I mean, most of the time, like my kids will take precedence over any fight. I don't, I'll watch highlights after the fact. And I like watching the other organizations like One and Bellator then there's the grassroots fights where if I'm cornering a fighter, then I'll go to those. And I still up and up on the the MMA scene, but it's just different point in my life.
No, absolutely. But I agree with Rocky. You should be proud of yourself. You've come a long fucking way. Yeah, man, I'm proud of you. And Don McGuire says, if you had to write a time capsule, statement for your family friends to open up in 20 years, do you have a statement of what that, or a feeling of what that would mean?
I've actually thought about putting together a memoir there has to be two though, because there's a lot of really risky. I mean, my 20s were. I mean, I traveled all over the world. I fought way more than I should have, and not just in the ring. And I partied and did stuff. But I think that if I were to put it in a time capsule, I'd want it to be the PG version for my children. I laugh about it now, and I was a savage. I was a genuine savage. I didn't think of things. I don't even think I was a martial artist at that point. I was just a fighter, and like jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, there are traditions to them. But I think it was later on in my life that I realized like the real true martial way. I'd probably put in a memoir of the good and obviously the lessons that I've learned throughout. If I were to sit down right now and put the lessons that I've learned down, there are so many. That's probably what would go in there. But there'd be a secondary for all of the the others that would read it, being like, "Oh wow, this is pretty insane."
Yeah, no.
I have one of my closest students is 21. I've had him since he was 15, and I tell him all the time that you should live a life that would make an exceptional movie. And I have no doubt that if you took it, and it would be like a holy shit type of movie. So yeah,
I do agree. Which last but very not least, Rocky Nelson wants to know: have you seen the Cobra Kai series, and what are your thoughts?
Awesome. I'm 43. Karate Kid for me was it's a dumper of a movie now when I watch it. But as a kid, I saw it in the theaters, and it was a big deal. We saw it at the Mann's Chinese Theater, and I distinctly remember that if you paid a certain amount of money, that they would send you something in the mail. And I thought they were going to send you the headband, and I was like, oh, I want the headband so bad. It turned out to be a poster, but either way, like that movie to me is my childhood and nostalgia part of it. They did a great job of making it nostalgic, and I'm terrified. I live in the Valley, and I'm terrified of karate gangs because of the show. I thought the first two seasons were amazing. A lot of fun. The third season started off kind of wonky. The first two episodes were garbage. Then it picked up. I'm actually looking forward to season 4. One of my friends was Mike Barnes in the Karate Kid 3. His name's Sean, and I think I asked him about it, and he can't say much about it, but I think we're probably going to see a return of the bad boy of karate, Mike Barnes. And dude, it's a fun show. It's fun. It's great. It's got the nostalgic factor. I mean, it's cheesy as all hell, but I mean, that's I think what's the fun part about it. It's a fun show. And really, I've talked to many friends of it. I mowed through it. I mowed through it. It's great. Fun.
Yeah. See? Yep. And Rocky says we're about the same age, can relate. And Don McGuire says, you're a youngster, sir. I'm 56, and I'm proud of what you've brought to the sport. As am I. I'm only 6 years younger than you, but I have probably accomplished an eighth of what you've done. So I mean, you have pushed me to do cool things and cool shit in my life. So again, I can't thank you enough, my man.
course, my pleasure, man. That I get to sit down and try a little bit.
Yeah, no, 100%. Which I gotta ask, right? There's been so many people, both professionally and personally, that have attributed to, you know, the evolution of Gabriel Ruediger. So let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Oh man, well, first and foremost, to the more of my tribe and my family than anything is Kaiju MMA and fitness. I'm very, very blessed to have the people that I have. My black belts, Walter, Brian, and Adrian. I have black belts, which is fucking crazy. I was a white belt walking in, and now I have black belts. I'm thankful for each and every person that has come through my life, good or bad. To be honest, in my MMA career, I had a lot of. I don't think I ever had a coach that really presented themselves in a way that. But I also I have to say Kurt Osiander, who was my first. Him and Half, but Kurt Osiander more than Half was like, that man made me really love jiu-jitsu and if there's one person I can say that like pushed me, it'd be Kurt Osiander. But I'm thankful for everybody, man. I mean, like Dan Henderson opening up his gym for me, Batiste Mansouri, and Javier Vasquez. Javi was my roommate for years, and I've been very, very fortunate and blessed to train with some great people, and I can go on and on about the groupings, and I can spend hours and hours. But again, right now, the people I would think is my wife and my daughters and my students. Those are the people that still motivate me to this day. So that's where we're at.
I freaking love it, man, and a beautiful family that you have. Much, yeah, much love and respect. Now, for those who haven't already done so, where can they find out more about you and Kaiju MMA on the interwebs?
There's kaiju-mma.com. There's also Kaiju MMA on the Instagram as well as the book face. We put stuff up pretty often. We were doing it a lot when they initially shut us down. We have a YouTube channel as well, the Kaiju MMA and Fitness YouTube channel with a lot of techniques. Those are fun and enjoyable. You can see me and a bunch of my staff doing shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't fuck with TikTok. I don't fuck with Twitter. I know that's I'm an old man. Like I said, if I could do CBs, I would do CB radio. So those are the places to find us. And that's another, like, if people want to have questions or anything, I have a very open door policy with that. I don't, as long as people are respectful. Even if you're disrespectful, I'll talk to you. Just won't be the same rapport. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hell yes. Well, again, Gabe, this has been an honor and a privilege. It's an honor just to be friends with you, man. Like, I gotta look at the book face and I'm all like, wait, that shouldn't happen. Like, but it has happened, and I'm super thankful for it. So again, dude, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done, but also just as a friend to me, you've been amazing.
Oh man, I like I told you, all you got to do is ask. No problem.
Yeah, sometimes it takes sometimes it moves mountains. I like I said, and this is not hyperbole, but it's almost like in martial arts. You want to make sure that your game is set where you can, go and challenge your teacher and even roll with your teacher in jiu-jitsu form. So I wanted to make sure that I was astute enough in my principle to be able to do your story justice. So I'm still a quarter of the way there, but a little bit more comfortable than I did 4 years ago.
You did all right. You did good. You did
good. No, man. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for tuning into According to.
I'm blown away that anybody wants to hear the nonsense I have to say. So thank you.
We might even I know a lot of people were wanted to get into the fight. So I mean, I think we might have to do a part 2 down the road.
Let me know.
All right. Hell yes. So there it is. So again, that's even more of an incentive to, if you haven't already done so, like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Twitch, YouTube and Facebook. Yes, we're on Bookface, we're on the Twitch, and all of that jazz, right? So you should go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because you get awesome shit like this. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna do it.
Hell yes! And so be like Gabe, be like me, subscribe to the According to Woods podcast, and if you don't take our word for it, and I don't know why you wouldn't, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zach.
Hey, this is Zeta Zach.